it's as an artist, it's going to happen. It just does. Like, I just don't see myself rapping when I'm 40 years old, you know? I'm 31. Who knows, you know? This might come back to bite me someday, but I just don't know if I'm that guy.
Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm joined by NF for the latest in NME's In Conversation series. How's it going today?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You had a long flight to get here, but are you holding up all right?
Surviving. We're talking about the jet lag or whatever. It's definitely rough. But
well, yeah,
no,
thanks
man,
for
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. First thing I wanted to ask is, when you started recording the new album, Hope, what was your mindset like? Did you have a kind of objective in mind for the album, or were you just kind of seeing where it was going?
Well, I kind of wanted to start working on this project like when the whole COVID thing happened. Like, I ended up doing a mixtape, but I was actually trying to start this album in that process. And then I was like, I don't want to drop an album because I didn't know if I'd be able to tour it. So then I put out Clouds. I don't know. I always have an idea of what I want to do, but I never know what. I kind of figure it out as I'm doing it, the concept. And sometimes it sucks because you're like, instead of just making music, you're like, how do I make a concept and how do I like, but it always ends up coming together. And a lot of times I end up making the title track last. So sometimes that's frustrating too, because I'm just like, I don't have the beginning of the album done until the end. And I'd prefer it's like you start at the beginning and go to the end, you know? So I just kind of figure it out as I go.
Is that what happened with Hope? Did the title track come last?
Yes. Yes. It seems to be well, I think on the search, the search didn't come last, but it was like more towards the end, but there's probably like a few songs after it. But yeah, this record, I finished Hope like very last, right at the end.
What made that the one to become the title track? Did something kind of fall into place when you made it?
I think I've kind of been crafting, like I'm a huge movie fan and I like connecting my records and songs and stuff like that. And that's like the journey I'm on in life. I'm trying to like figure things out, and I kind of like mentioned that in, you know, my search record and stuff, like looking for the map to hope and just talking about just like metaphors and stuff that's just in my music. And so, yeah, when I was making this project, I was like trying to think of the cover, and I need to post someday I have one of my buddies make up mock-ups of my albums covers before they come out, or like the idea of it, and you would laugh so hard if you saw them because it's like the worst thing. Like the search cover, if I showed you the idea, it actually looks pretty similar as far as like where I'm at and stuff, but it looks really funny because we just took like a Google image of a cart and put it in this weird spot. We're like, yeah, and then we could do this, but it's kind of cool because then later on you see like that idea actually come to life.
I feel like fans would probably love seeing that kind of part of the process.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like, what was it? I'm trying to remember if I did one for Clouds, but I did one for this. I did one for this like 3 years ago.
Wow.
Just like I had an idea, maybe not 3 or 2 years, I don't know. But it was just me sitting on a raft. And then it was like, yeah, ended up coming to life later.
So have you been working on this like on and off for 3 years then? Is that when it really started?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the exact timeline. There's a lot of songs that didn't make the project that I still want to finish. I like them, I just couldn't get them over the finish line. I was just struggling kind of, so sometimes creatively I feel like you want to do something, but like you're also living your life. Like I feel like creatively people want to hear something different from me. And I get bored of my stuff too. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to do something crazy different, you know? But also in my real life, when you're trying to figure stuff out and you're trying to grow as a person, it takes time to do that. But the industry we live in, it's like if you leave for 3-4 years or whatever, then it's like you could be gone by then. It's just, that's happening, just getting worse and worse with that. So it's like, I don't know, I was trying to navigate that, but also just be authentic to how I feel. I didn't want to make another album that I felt was like depressing, but also I felt like I kind of got in my head a little bit sometimes writing it, just being like, oh, I can't make anything that's the same, and I can't talk about anything that's the same, and every song needs to be like positive. And I still think that what I ended up with was great. It's just the process was like a little more unnatural, I guess.
Does it get harder every time because you've got more to compare, more
Yes.
back catalogue to kind of compare yourself to?
Yeah. I kind of like went on some long-winded thing because I'm just like thinking through what we're talking about while we're doing it. But yes, definitely harder because you kind of like have said a lot. Like when you first come out, it's like no one knows anything about you. So everything you say is new, everything you say is fresh. And you're also having, if you start making it, you're having experiences to talk about. And then now that I've been doing it for 8 years or whatever it's been since the first EP came out, it's like now there's so much content out there. I've done over 20 music videos, you know what I mean? Coming up with new video ideas and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's definitely makes it harder, no question.
How would you say you've changed in that 8-year period?
Oh man, I've changed a lot. Just like I feel like anybody in any field, I've kind of like, I don't really think about it that much, I guess, but when I like sitting here and you asking it, well, I guess I do think about it sometimes. Like I think about like, you just see the growth. Like it's like, I've said it before in interviews, but it's kind of like your diary, or like if you were a builder and you built a house and you're seeing like the progress over the last 8 years, you're like, oh, I learned, you know, don't build it this way, or hey, I need to do this in this order because it makes this easier. It's like, that's how it's kind of been for me with music, where I'm like, oh, I need to come up with this concept this way, and then if I want to make the video match this, I need to think about this, and I've kind of just learned how to do that. And I definitely have fallen in love with the music video side of because like I said, I love movies, so that's been cool to like experience. They've definitely gotten harder to shoot. I wish I would have done. My wife tried to get me to do it, and I don't really like doing behind the scenes, but for Hope, the music video, I don't know if you saw it, but that was like the hardest music video I've ever shot before.
It looks incredible. What was it actually like to shoot?
It was the hardest like thing. We shot it in Oregon. I showed up and I got a text that was like, I think they said, hey, the power's out in the town we're staying in. So we're like staying in this little town. And the hotel pot, when I arrived, there was no power in the hotel we were in. So that was a great start. And then there was a huge storm. I guess it was the month I was there, they said it's like the worst time of year you can go there. So I was like, okay, great. And then, yeah, I woke up, I got videos on my phone. I woke up the next day and there's just sheets of rain. And the first day I was on the water. And you can't tell in the music video, but half that day was like, literally the waves were so big, the boat with the camera on it, you couldn't even like film. So we were on that water for probably like 6 to 8 hours, and we only got to film like an hour and a half total because for the whole water scene. So it was rough. I think I love the video how it turned out, but man, it looks so calm. It looks so calm when you watch.
You look kind of strong unless if it's all just breezy.
Dude, I know. I'll show you a video on my phone before I leave. Like literally, I have a video of the camera guy in the front of the boat, and the whole boat is going like this, and you couldn't even see, like the water and the fog and everything was so intense. And then literally, you see the video, and the sun started coming out. It was crazy, and we were supposed to shoot on the ocean, and we got there, and they were like, "Hey, no one's allowed on the ocean because of how big the storm was." That was like the huge storm came the night before, and then you were getting kind of like the aftershock or whatever you call it from that. So, but yeah, it was the cliff at the end of the video. It was like a 4-mile hike to get there. 2 miles there, 2 miles back. But that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I don't even know what the cliff was called, but
it's a very different video, but the Motto video is really fun. Was that an enjoyable shoot?
It was. It's my productions have gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah.
I used to say I wanted to be in a movie or like shoot like a short film thing, but now I'm like, I don't know if I want to now.
Why is that?
Just because like I'm such a control freak and I get so stressed out, and it's 12 hours of, that shoot was I think it was a 3-day shoot. And so you're just like 12, 15-hour days of just like, because I think we went overtime on 2 days. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a lot to do. But there's probably ways where I think sometimes I'm so paranoid about getting enough good shots and good options that sometimes I overshoot. So that doesn't make it easy, because I could move on to the next shot quicker than I do, but I don't, because I'm like, oh, what if I want to see this, and it's like a 12-second shot that I put out a behind the scenes for Motto, and there's just a moment where I say, oh, it can take 2 hours to shoot 12 seconds, and it's like, it shouldn't take that long. Sometimes I make it take that long, because I'm like, no, we need to shoot this direction, and it's like 3.5 hours later, you're like, okay, we got 12 seconds done, let's move on. But the fans made that possible. I was nervous about that video, because I was like, man, I don't want to do it if I can't make it look at least somewhat legit with the people, like in the auditorium. I'm like, man, if no one shows up or something, or even if 400 people showed up, you couldn't make that work. So I had to have 1,200 or
That's how many there were, 1,200, wow.
Yeah, fans showed up in dresses and suits, and so I was like so thankful for that. I say it in the video, but people don't realize I was super nervous about that, because it's one thing to have people come to your shows, but music videos are tough, especially when you're like, hey, you got to dress this way.
Yeah.
Like I think when I grow up, there's like 600 people. I was like, hey, I just wear black and jump around in the crowd. That's way different. This was like, hey, you got to dress in a suit and a tie and a dress, and yeah, so that was a crazy video too, but I think it turned out good. I was proud of that one.
What story were you trying to tell with that video? What was the concept behind it?
I just feel like sometimes I just like to poke fun at our industry that we're in. I mean, I'm in it, so I see a lot of stuff, and like, so I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the older I get, the more I like care less about certain things. It's not really like, some people tried to make it about like, like a knock, like I'm knocking certain artists. It's not about that. It's like, if you're an artist and you get a Grammy, like it's a big deal to a lot of people. I'm just saying for me, I'm not saying if I ever got a Grammy, I wouldn't care at all. I'm just saying I care way less about those things than I used to, just because I'm in it. Like, I would much rather sell out arenas and behind the scenes be doing big things than like get a Grammy. And some people will probably be like, oh, it's just because you don't got one. It's like, no, that's not why. Like, I've just seen what the industry is, and there's things I love about it too. But yeah, I'd much rather be like killing it behind the scenes as long as I can, and touring. That's a big thing. I always tell people, I'm like, man, when it comes to touring, that's kind of like the final step where people decide how invested they are in you, in your career. Like, if they're willing to buy a ticket and come to your show and buy your merchandise, like, they're in. It's easy to go on your phone and watch a video or download one song from you that they love and put it on their playlist. But I think nowadays it's harder than ever to get people to like really engage and be like, oh, I want to check out that artist's whole album, or I want to actually go see them live. To me, that's the last step where someone's like, I love this, I'm committed to this.
I was going to ask this because, like, the last two albums both made #1 on the Billboard chart. Like, is touring really more of a kind of definition of success for you now than going in?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I think, back to one of your earlier questions was, I think I'm just like waiting for the fall off, and I think it gives me, I think every artist has it, like the fall off of like your career. It's, as an artist, it's going to happen. It just does. Like, I just don't see myself rapping when I'm 40 years old, you know? I'm 31. Who knows, you know? This might come back to bite me someday, but I just don't know if I'm that guy, you know what I mean? And I'm thankful for how long my career's gone, but like writing this album, I think that kind of got in my head too, and I'm like, man, is any of this better than what I've done before? And then you just start for me, I start obsessing about everything. Is it different enough? It's like, is this the record where I start falling off? Is this like, I don't know. It's just like natural feelings I think most artists have, because we're in an industry where it's like that. Like most of the time, you don't even get on, like you don't even make it.
Yeah.
And then if you do make it, you might only last a year. You might last 10 years if you're lucky. So I've been very fortunate to be able to do this long. But even me, I still have the fear of like when's it gonna be over? And I kind of went off on a thing. I don't know what your original question was, but I started going off into the fall off thing. But I don't know what you said before that. Do you?
No, I think we'll follow up on this
right.
on this topic. Like, how far ahead are you thinking? Are you thinking like this album, this tour, and then I'm not thinking 5 years down the line, or do you have a kind of longer plan?
No, I always think about the future. That's why I torture myself sometimes, because I suck at living in the moment, and I'm always like, well, what's next? Like, as soon as this record's been done, I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do now? What's my next album gonna be? And it's like, it's not even out yet. You know what I mean? And that's part of what's made me good at what I do, I think. But also, like, man, I want to start living in the moment a little bit more. Like, I was talking to my wife the other day, and I think she was saying that it's like, I'm gonna someday, you know, in the next 10 years, I'm gonna be 40 years old, and I'm gonna look back and be like, man, why did I not? I don't want to do that and look back, like turn 40 and look back and go, man, why did I never enjoy this stuff? You know what I mean? I always was just like, oh, this is so stressful, and this is this. It's like, I kind of do that to myself, and so, I don't know. My goal is over the next 10 years or however long I could do this still, to actually try to enjoy it, because I haven't really done that.
Well, I guess when you're on the treadmill, you've just got to be focusing on the next thing you've got to do. It must be hard to kind of take that pause and think, hang on, this is kind of amazing.
Well, I think you have to do that. You have to think about the future. It's not bad to do it. It's just the way I do it is bad. Like, it's not bad to, like, perfect your craft and work really hard at it and work really hard on your music videos. The problem is all this stuff, I obsess on it so much that by the time I actually do it or get it done, I'm so exhausted that I just, like, didn't enjoy any of it, because I just, like, obsessed about it so much. And on this record, I have terrible OCD. I've talked about it a little in interviews, but like before this album, it didn't really like affect my work. It affected my work, but not like I couldn't finish things. Now it's like gotten kind of worse. And so I struggle to finish things. If I don't think something's good enough, I'll just obsess about it and keep trying to do it and do it and do it, do it till I get so wore out on it. That's why I got so many songs that I just never finished, because I was like, oh, that's not good enough, or oh, I've said that before, so I can't say anything that sounds anything like that. And it just kind of, OCD creates like a box where like, oh, here's all the perimeters that you can't get out of. Here's why that's not gonna work. Here's why blah, 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 blah. And then eventually you're like, I couldn't write anything. There was like months where I couldn't write any songs.
Wow.
I'd be outside for like 8 hours, like no joke, not exaggerating, 8 hours trying to write songs, and I would like get nothing.
How did you break out of that space? How did you kind of get through it?
I just like tortured myself every day trying to write. Like, some people say that I tried to wait for inspiration, which I don't usually do. I did that when I got really desperate. First, I try to write and write and write until something pops up. That's what I normally do, and then it'll end up happening. After it was like months of torture of that, I was like, all right, maybe I need to just take a break for like 3 days or something, which I'm not good at doing either. I say I'm gonna take a break, then the next day I'm like, oh, I'll just go out for a couple hours. But yeah, I ended up taking a break. That didn't help. And so I don't even know how I did it. I think I just kept going out and going out and going out until I finally was like, okay, I can live with this thing or this thing. But yeah, I got to figure out moving forward in my projects how to change that, because then that was like my favorite thing to do before. It was like record and write music. And on this project, it just felt a lot harder, because I think I had so many records out, and I felt like the pressure, because it'd been so long, was more than it ever had been. So I felt all this pressure. And then just naturally, after you've released so many songs and so many videos, you're just like, what am I gonna talk about?
You talk about becoming a dad on the record. Like, how has that changed you as a person and as an artist?
Definitely still growing. I feel like I'll have some songs in the future that kind of touch on it more, because this is all kind of happening while I'm having a kid, you know, the process of this record. But I feel like having a kid, you have to look at your issues even more, because now you're like raising a human being. And I feel like you can't run from it as much. I mean, you can, but at the end of the day, your kid's still sitting there. And I'm like, man, if you're a impatient person, which I am an impatient person, I'm great with him. He's made me. He makes me have to look at myself even more and say like, oh man, I need to figure this thing out about myself, because now I feel like when you have a kid, like what you do, you know, we're all products of our environment and like how we grew up, and as adults now, you know, the way we're raised and everything impacts us. And so like I'm just trying to like figure that out. Definitely not perfect. Having a kid is like, everyone talks about like you don't know until you know, like until you have a kid you just don't know what it's like. And I will say, having a kid, it was like, oh yeah, this is definitely like a real thing, but in an amazing way. Like, dude, I love my son so much. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it.
We say that on hope that it kind of made you look in the mirror, becoming a dad.
Yeah, having a kid will make you definitely step back, is what I said, or whatever. Like, it does for sure.
There's also like an incredibly vulnerable song on the album, Mama, about your mother, where you're kind of thinking about talking to her in heaven, I guess. Is that?
Yeah.
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 Did becoming a dad make you think about your own parents? Was it all kind of happening at the
No,
same
it wasn't
time?
from that. It was, well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of having a kid that makes me think about my mom. The song, the main thing was just like, the older I get, the more I've realized, like the songs, if you followed my story, I don't remember when How Could You Leave Us came out, like 6-7 years ago maybe. It's a very different song than that, which is why I'm excited about it, because some people, I don't know what they're expecting to hear when they hear this song, but I'm excited about it because it's just so different. Like, if you follow my story, you're witnessing the growth of a person. Like I was saying earlier, where like as an artist and as a person, I write about my life, so I need time to grow, right? I feel like that song is an example of that, where 31, I think when I wrote How Could You Leave Us, I was like 25, 26, I don't know. And the way you view life, man, it's just like different. Now I have so much, like, I just have more empathy now looking back at, like, you know, my mom was a product of the environment she was raised in. And so that impacted her a lot. Not saying it was right or that she couldn't have made other decisions, but it's just like everyone gets impacted by something, and it definitely affects you as an adult, how you're raised, and the trauma and the things that happen to you. So that's why I'm excited about this song. I feel like you still feel emotional when you listen to it, but like you don't feel angry. Like, I don't know. I'm pumped for that one to come out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you say like, I hope you're at peace. Like that's a very, like it's a generous sentiment in a way, and a kind of, it's for closure in a way.
I think that's what I'm most excited about. You're seeing, if you play How Could You Leave Us and then you play Mama, you're just like witnessing an actual journey in life from someone who wrote a song about something and thought a different way. It doesn't mean I don't still carry some of the problems from that, and they don't affect my life still, but I'm learning, like, just even learning how to be like, have empathy, or like, you know, forgive that person, and then just trying to figure my own stuff out. I feel like that's a really cool moment. Because it's kind of like I said, I always bring up movies, but it's just because I love them so much. I mean, it's my life. It's not a movie, but it's just like, I feel like you're seeing not the end of a story, but you're seeing like, that's a part of my life, a door that's kind of closing, you know?
Is that how you see each of your kind of projects, as like a kind of the story of your journey? Is that how you see it, kind of like a kind of chapter each time?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Kind of like a book. Yeah, and just like movies, it's like trying to pace things properly, but also you're writing about your real life, so it's like sometimes you feel like a movie's supposed to be pacing a certain way, but your life's not pacing that way. And so I think that's what catches me up sometimes, where it's like, even creatively, it's like, I don't want to write a million records that are depressing, but like, if that's what I feel like, I don't know how to like not write that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes I get caught up in that because I'm like, man, creatively, I feel like people need to hear something different from me. I want to hear something different from me, but some days still, I think the whole album I kept trying to be like, oh, it needs to be positive, it needs to be positive, it needs to be positive. And it's just like, I don't always feel positive just because I'm trying on this journey of trying to be better. And so I think I got a little caught up in that.
There are a couple of features on the album, collaborations. How did they come about?
The Corday feature, someone from my management team, I think, connected us. I can't remember how it happens. So we like talked on the phone. And then I was in the studio and I had a chorus that I wrote that I hadn't used. And we like threw a beat together real quick, me and my producer, and I laid down the hook and I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And so Corday and I had like just connected. You see this bug, man? What's going on here? Jeez. Yeah, so we laid down the hook and I sent it to him, and he's awesome, bro. He's legit. He like sent me a verse in like a day.
This was pretty quick.
Yeah. And I had been having writer's block for months, so it took me like, I wasn't working on it for 2 months, but I like was trying to write like 8 songs. And I was like, I couldn't write anything to any song. Finally, that one, I would have weird breakthrough moments where it's weird. I could go out sometimes in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I'd write a verse, you know, within the hour, and then it'd take me 2 weeks to write one verse. And then I wouldn't even use it sometimes. It's terrible.
And how did the Julia Michaels collaboration come about on Gone?
I don't know if I had my label or if I had someone, or my A&R, or I can't remember how we reached out. But I think we just reached out to her and were like, hey. I probably scared her to death because I sent her this really terrible like voice memo thing with like the chords and me singing like my idea. But in my brain, I know what I'm gonna do. But if I was an artist and someone sent me that, I'd probably be like, can you elaborate on this idea? I'm a little worried. But no, she was cool. Like I sent her that. I was like, look, here's the vibe. And then I ended up getting in the studio, recording the actual thing and sending it to her, and it was awesome. And she wrote her verse, which is amazing. She killed it. I don't know if you heard the song, but
Yeah. Well, she's an amazing songwriter,
dude,
isn't she?
she's crazy, man. Like, you can just tell she's a writer, man.
Do you enjoy working with other artists like that, doing collaborations? Does it help with writer's block?
I think I should do it more. I just want it to be like the right stuff. Okay. Like sometimes I feel like people force features just because like it helps both of you, you know, your fan base and
You
stuff.
mentioned this on Motto, don't you? That, you know, you could do a load of features that the label would love.
Yeah, like I just want to do like the features that I actually like. Like I feel like when you look at my track list and you think about me as an artist, and then if you like listen to a lot of Corday stuff and Julia stuff, it just doesn't feel weird to me. You know, I've definitely been asked to do features where I'm just like, even by artists where I love some of their songs. I do. I think they're amazing. But I'm just like, man, I feel like it feels weird. I want to do something with AJR. I think their stuff is dope. I feel like we could do something super cool with them. But no, I think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes I think people try to make it work because they're like business-wise it makes sense, but then it also just brand-wise it feels kind of weird. Like, that feels forced. Like you two are good singers, but like it doesn't seem like you should do the song together. I don't know.
Is that something you can kind of tell in your gut if, say, like the artist approaches you or the label approaches you and you just...
Yeah. And man, once you start gaining traction, people just want to hop on board sometimes of like what's happening. And it's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's business. That's just how the industry works. It's just sometimes if I feel like it's too much of that too, then I'm just kind of like, do you even like my music, or do you know, I don't need someone to be like the biggest fan, but I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm saying, the forcing thing, where
Yeah.
it just feels like, oh, this person's popping off right now, so let's put them with this person, or, oh, I just want to do a song with this person because they just had a big radio hit or whatever, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like that about any of both features on my record. I'm super excited for people to hear, because I don't do a lot of them, and so, but if I could get the right, there's definitely been like artists that I've wanted to collab with, that I haven't, you know, so maybe try to reach out and get some of those going.
Talked a little earlier about kind of making fun of the industry slightly in the Motto video, and there being aspects that you like, aspects that you don't like. What do you find, what's the hardest part of being an artist trying to navigate the industry, do you think?
I think there's a lot of politics. I think the industry is also like changing so much. When I started to now, just because I've been around, so I feel like right now, if you're a new artist, you got it the worst. You really do, because like, if you're trying to get big, it's just like social media has never been, I feel like, as big as it is right now. And there's so many people trying to do it. You know, back in the day, it was like you got signed to a label and you were on the radio, and then people could just buy your record in the store. You know what I mean? Now, Joey in his, I don't know why I came up with that name, but Joey in his bedroom can record a song and put it on YouTube and put it on streaming platforms, and then the next day be massive. But I think it gets tricky because there's so much of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's way harder, like I was saying earlier, for people to get to do shows, like to get people to actually, I think people are having they're having big moments now, but like they don't have careers. Not everyone, obviously. But like I was, this bug, bro, what's going on with this bug? Like I was saying earlier, to get people to come to your show, to me, that's like,
Yeah.
if you can tour, like people are always like, oh, if you can do arenas, it's like you made it. No, in my opinion, that's a goal I have. But if you can tour and do 500 people in every city, like that's huge. Like it's way harder than people think. Like I think my booking agent was saying, like the amount of artists that get to like 1,000 tickets, that's, you know, rare to do that. But then as soon as you go to like 1,500, 2,000, everyone starts dropping off, because it's just hard to get people to come to shows. So like I was saying, like back to your original question though, is like, yeah, I think it's super hard right now, and like it's just getting harder. Like icons, I was talking to my friend the other day, I'm like, man, all the icons I feel like are from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or way longer than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I grew up, the artists that people are still, everyone still knows about and everything, I feel like, man, if you're coming out the last 5 years, there's definitely still huge artists. I'm just saying, is anyone who comes out this year, 10 years from now, with how everything's just like this, is it going to be like, I don't know. I'm just watching it change in front of me.
It's so interesting what you said about like getting people to come to shows, because I guess if you can get 500, 1,000 people in every city to come to a show and do that every 2 to 3 years, that's a long-term career, isn't it? If that audience is going to come out every single time.
You can have an amazing, like even financially, like if you do it correctly, if you can keep touring around, I mean, it's hard to keep people engaged, so you kind of want to make sure you keep doing something. But yeah, if you can travel around, bro, and play for 500, 1,000 people, like that's all over the US. You can do 40 shows for 500 people, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously most people's goals are bigger than that. But I remember when I first started and I started playing clubs for like 300, 500 people, that was like amazing to me. And the environment's so dope. That's like, those are the moments like you just don't get them back.
Yeah.
You know, like unless I start falling off, and then, you know, I go back down to that. But like, I'll never forget those moments where you're like, you go from nothing, nobody at your shows, and then I started playing clubs and there's 300, 500, 600 packed people all in this little room. I would tell any artist, enjoy that, like, because I don't think that feeling, the bigger the shows get, it's not that you get a new feeling, But I'm saying you don't get that feeling anymore.
At this point in your career, what do you see your purpose as an artist as being?
I don't know. I've always said in all my interviews, like it's always been like a therapy for me, an outlet. And I really think that's what it is for me. Sometimes people will like it, sometimes they won't. I just want to learn to, like, if I love it, then I'm good if other people don't love it. You know what I mean? I'm fine with putting out music that I think is amazing. It's not that it doesn't suck when people don't like it, but like if I love it and I think it's good, then I can live with that.
And have you thought about how this album's going to translate live? Are you already thinking about the tour for it?
Definitely thinking about it. It's a good problem to have, but now that I've put out so many records, it's like now, it used to be like, how am I going to build a set that's long enough to be a headliner? Because I didn't have enough music, you know? And now it's like, now I got a lot of music, and so it's like, how do I put a show together that's, I can squeeze all these songs in and not cut out ones that people want to hear, but also, I don't like doing too long of shows. I feel like it can get boring for people. I don't think my shows are boring at all, but if I'm at a show and the show's like over an hour and 20 minutes, I'm kind of like, but I'm a very like impatient person. I usually go for like 5 songs. I don't really go to a lot of shows, but I go for like 5 songs and then I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm like, I don't want to deal with the traffic and people and stuff, so I just leave early. So I'm not a good gauge of that. But yeah, I'm excited for the tour. I've got a really good team of people, and we're working on it. Nervous to go into arenas just because it's like, I feel like that's the jump that people should be afraid of making, because I'd much rather sell out, 8,000 tickets in Seattle than try to sell 14,000 tickets. I'm always more about like, I want the vibe to be right.
Yeah.
It's not just about like I'd rather the room look good and make less money than sell 2,000 more tickets and the room looks terrible.
Yeah.
It's like that's something I'm excited about things, but usually when I'm excited about something, I'm pretty nervous about it too. So I'm excited to try to go into arenas. Hopefully it works out. We'll see.
Well, thanks so much for your time.
Dude,
It's been really
appreciate
fun.
it, man.
Cheers.
Good to meet you, dude.
Thank you.